This is Spunky.
And Snarky.
And we say,
Welcome to the show. Welcome back for another episode. This week, since it's Friday the 13th, get your rabbit's foots out.
Don't let any black cats cross your path.
Don't break any mirrors or walk under ladders. But do join us and watch Freaky Friday.
The 1995 made-for-TV movie, not the original one.
And not the modern one either.
And actually there's a fourth one that they made in 2018, which is like a musical for the Disney Channel, but I didn't see that one.
Interesting. Anyway, let's get into Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday is a 1995 made-for-TV movie, which is a remake of the 1976 movie of the same name. It premiered on May 6, 1985, and stars Shelley Long and Gabby Hoffman as the mother and daughter duo.
So the TV movie opens up and we got our main character, Ellen, chatting on the phone outside, and she's like in her bathrobe doing business. And she hangs up, gets another call, starts talking in Spanish, but her kids are running around. You got her son, Ben, and he's kind of likes to wear bow ties and is a little geeky. And then you got the daughter, Annabelle, who's very like 90s, like
Grunge.
And she's trying to get them ready to go. And Annabelle's like your typical angsty teenager. And then Ellen's boyfriend / business partner, Bill, calls, and Annabelle clearly doesn't like him. Annabelle's like, it's your life, you could mess it up basically by being with Bill. And the day just goes on like that.
So later, Ellen arrives at Village Kids, which is her clothing business. Her coworkers tell her about all the different problems they're having. Like, they need the payroll for the last 6 months or else no one's going to get paid. And then there's this slacker employee, Joe, who's not showing up, and they suggest that she fire him. But she doesn't really want to do it. Yeah. And then she tries to climb the ladder. They have, like, one of those, like, library ladders.
All like Beauty and the Beast, where you go swinging on the, like, bookshelf ladder.
Yeah, to get some records, but she can't do it because she's super afraid of heights.
Like, she gets, like, 2 steps up and is, like, freaking the fuck out.
You know what? I don't blame her, because that would be the same.
But yeah, there's all sorts of things going on with this business. They gotta meet this, like, important client the next day. The IRS is coming for them. And basically, if they don't land this deal, they going out of business. And then you got Annabelle, who goes to school, and she's on the diving team, and the coach is like, well, you're the leader of the swim team, so you need to pick who's going to be an alternate diver because this other girl's out. The popular girls are all like, you should pick this person because we want her to be on our team. Or meanwhile, this other girl, Jackie, who's been practicing like hell hard, but she's kind of dorky, they don't want her to get in, and so she's really conflicted about what to do. Then there's Luke, who Annabelle has a crush on, and Spunky also had a crush on.
We'll talk about that later.
Is Andrew Keegan. So she's all like thinking he's dreamy, and she's got all this like high school angst going on that she has to deal with.
Later that night, family and Bill are having Chinese food for dinner, and Bill gives Ellen a talisman necklace and then gives Annabelle a matching one. He explains that it's supposed to have certain powers. The guy he got them from said that he thinks they're from Turkey. Annabelle says, I wish a certain someone would go away. So Ellen scolds her for being rude and thanks Bill for the necklaces. Annabelle says thanks too, reluctantly. The camera pans down and the necklaces start glowing. Later, Annabelle and Ellen chat about her dive team dilemma, and Ellen asks about Luke and says that she doesn't trust him and that she's too young to get involved with boys. Annabelle says that she's too young to do anything and that her mom doesn't understand what she's dealing with and storms out. Ellen says to herself, well, you should try my life.
So the next day is Friday the 13th, and they're trying to get ready for the day, and Ellen's freaking out because she's got this meeting. She asks Annabelle to pick up her brother later in the day to take her to the swim meet because Annabelle's got the big swim meet that day as well. So there's all this hullabaloo. Bill and Ellen are talking business, and they're trying to just get out of the house. Well, Annabelle gets in the carpool with Jackie and her mom, and Ellen's going off with Bill. And then they're both like thinking about all the things they have to do. And Ellen's like, oh, I wish I had someone to manage my life like I do for Annabelle. And Annabelle's like, oh, I wish I could do whatever I want, like her mom. So they're like, I bet it would be nice to have her life. And the talisman glows. And then all of a sudden, they switch bodies. And then they realize they're in the wrong car. And they see themselves in the mirror and scream because they don't know what's going on.
We cut to Ellen as Annabelle at the school, and she is appalled by the things going on. She even pulls apart a couple who are kissing in the hall. Then we cut to Annabelle as Ellen arriving at work, and she's totally confused by everything. Bill reminds her of the big meeting with the buyer, and that the guy from the IRS is coming today. She freaks out about the meeting and tries to explain to Bill what is going on, but before she can, he tries to kiss her, and then she freaks out even more.
Annabelle's back at school and is trying to figure out what's going on. She ends up in Spanish class, but she knows the teacher. So she's talking to her like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. And the teacher's like, what are you talking about? And she calls her by a nickname, and the teacher is not pleased. She speaks fluent Spanish and passes her pop quiz, and everyone's all amazed. Later on, they're in biology class, and they're supposed to dissect frogs. And Ellen in Annabelle's body is like, no, there is nothing humane about this, and there's nothing that we're learning from dissecting frogs that we couldn't have learned from charts. She gives this big speech and talks about how she marched on Washington, and everyone's all clapping for her, but she gets sent to the principal's office. Then she's in the principal's office and she's starts smoking, and the principal's just amazed by her attitude.
The principal says, do you want a martini with your cigarette?
She's like, that'd be great. 2 olives, please.
Yeah, and I have to mention the principal is played by Aline Brennan. She's in Clue, and she's been in a bunch of stuff.
Oh, she was Mrs. Peacock in Clue.
And she was in Pippi Longstockings and Private Benjamin.
And she's like, oh, why don't we strike up a deal? I see that, the clubs need new uniforms. I can totally get you a deal at a fixed rate. And she's like, your business? And she's like, my mom's business. And she, gives her attention and throws her ass out. So back at Village Kids, Ellen, again, tries to explain what's going on to Carrie, her coworker. He's like, it's Friday the 13th. Everyone feels out of it today, just not understanding. He tells her that Joe, the slacker employee, is there, and she needs to fire him. So he comes into her office and has a lot of excuses about how his family's in town. It's like, well, I got some good news for you. You're fired so you can spend more time with your family. She's just hella blunt about it. Because she doesn't really know what's going on. Yeah. Later, Bill comes in, and she tries to explain about the body swap to him again. He tells her that the pattern maker is here, and that she needs to dress the mannequin. And so we get a montage of her trying to, different fabrics on it. And Bill's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm designing. Bill gets frustrated with her and starts yelling because everything is, hitting the fan. Meanwhile, at school, Annabelle is trying to figure out what happened, how they switched bodies, and remembers the talisman. And Annabelle had taken, a rubbing of it, earlier in the day before they switched bodies. So she is roaming the halls trying to figure out what to do, and, of course, gets into the principal's office again, but then ends up in the library and is asking the librarian about what language this is, and she's like, it could be this or that. Go talk to this other lady. She knows the languages. Yeah, it had kind of Chinese-looking characters on the talisman, but they didn't know for sure what it was. Meanwhile, Bill tells Ellen to get ready for her meeting as she's trying to walk in high heels. She trips and drops the contents of her purse on the floor. And that's when she sees her mom's credit card and ooh. Ka-ching, ka-ching. And she decides to get some rollerblades and gear in order to get to the lunch on time. And then back to Annabelle having to do PE, and she's like, I'm feeling a little parched. Do I have to do this? And they're like, yeah, but she doesn't know how to play basketball. And everyone is getting pissed at her because she can't do anything. So meanwhile at the restaurant, Miss Debney, the lady Ellen is supposed to meet with, is waiting for her impatiently. At school, she gets the talisman to the person who can read languages, Miss Flutterman, and she's like, I can't really understand what this character and this character and this character say, but basically it's something, 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 something permanent.
And it's funny because, like, the librarian sent her to this other teacher, and they look exactly alike.
Because they're basically twins.
Meanwhile, Ellen finally arrives at the restaurant and meets Miss Debney, but she forgot her portfolio with the designs in it to show her. Bill arrives to the lunch with the samples, and she rollerblades back to the office to get her portfolio. Bill shows her the samples, which don't match. Earlier, she had told the designers to, like, use plaids and stripes together
While trying to speak Spanish.
So Miss Debney is annoyed and says that she's out of time, but Bill gets her talking about herself till Ellen finally arrives.
Annabelle back at school is trying to figure out what's going on at the office, and she's freaking out about the meeting and tries to use the phone in, like, the teacher's lounge, but then gets caught and gets sent to the principal's office again.
There's a lot of that. Back at the restaurant, Ellen is eating and showing her sketches to Miss Debney, and she's trying to get out of there. And Bill then pulls Ellen aside and is like, what are you doing? If we don't get this sale, like, your kids aren't going to go to summer camp. They're not going to have money for other expenses. They could lose the house. Like, basically, get your shit together. And Bill gets a page that the IRS guy is at the business, so he has to go.
Back at school, Annabelle is like, I gotta get to the office to figure out what the hell is going on. So she keeps asking other kids if they rode their bike today. Of course, Luke is there, her knight in shining armor, and he's like, yeah, you can borrow my bike. And so she, like, takes off.
So Ellen does her best at the restaurant to explain the sketches to Miss Debney, saying that kids really like this stuff. It's comfortable and it looks good. She explains that girls are trading clothes constantly and asks her to go to the school and see the kids actually wearing the styles. So she invites her to the swim meet. And then we get a montage of Annabelle riding the bike while Ellen is rollerblading throughout town.
Annabelle ends up going to Mr. Lee's Chinese food joint to try to figure out what is going on with this talisman and hoping that they can actually read the whole thing. The owner there is like, yeah, my grandfather can read it.
And also it's funny because the employee Ellen fired from Village Kids is now working at the Chinese food restaurant.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, what are you doing here?
And so the grandfather finally reads it and it says, mind is everything. If you cling to thought with will, it assumes outward form. When you employ your will, you control your own destiny. Sunset is most auspicious time for movement in fermentment or change will be permanent. So if they don't get switched back by sunset, they're fucked.
It's going to stay that way permanently. So Ellen goes to the school and pulls Jackie out of class. She tells her that she chooses her for the team, but she says Annabelle already told her. Ellen gives her some bags of clothes and says to have the team wear them because Miss Debney's coming later. Jackie says that it's only Annabelle and her on the team because the rest of the team quit because of her. She gives the clothes back and says they have to stand up in front of the whole school and forfeit.
So Ellen and Annabelle's body goes back to Village Kids on Luke's bike and runs into Bill and is trying to convince him about the body switch, but he's like so preoccupied because Drew Carey, who works for the IRS apparently, is taking all their files and won't give any explanation as to why. Annabelle, like, yells at him for patronizing her and, like, storms off because she's like, the real Annabelle was right this whole time. Like, Bill does not listen to the kids. So she bikes back to school and is met by Rachel, the girl who left the swim team, and tells her that the coach blames her for the whole team falling apart. She's like, you're the one who quit. Why is it my fault? And Annabelle, like, lays into her that she's a spoiled, self-centered brat and she's just on, like, a power trip and I will not be told off by a manipulative, malicious little 12-year-old. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get ready for a swim meet. And, like, the girl is, like, shocked because no one's ever put her in her place before.
She calls her a social terrorist. Back again at Village Kids, Bill and Ellen are arguing about the lunch, with the rest of the co-workers and the tax man all, like, listening in. Bill has finally had it, quits, and leaves. Ellen says to her co-workers, I bet he wants me to chase after him, but I'm not going to do it, because there's no good reason to. Then Frida Debney calls and says that she has a list of questions she wants to ask Bill before she decides if she wants to go to the meet or not. Ellen says, okay, that's a good reason, and tries to call Bill, but gets no answer. She goes looking for him without any luck and comes back, and there he is waiting for her, and they have like a heart-to-heart about making changes, and he says the reason he never got super close with the kids is because he didn't want to disappoint them if it didn't work out between them, and he didn't want them to feel rejected like they did with their father. Ellen says she just figured that he didn't like them very much. Bill proposes, and Ellen freaks out because she's Annabelle and says no, and like throws her talisman necklace on the ground.
Annabelle calls Bill, and Bill answers while Annabelle in Ellen's body is having like her tantrum in the background. And Annabelle finally gets on the phone with Ellen and is like, I can't believe like you didn't tell me about you and Bill, that it was so serious, and like she's super upset. And then like storms off, and Bill picks up, and Annabelle's like, of course she's sad, Billzer. And then that's when it clicks for Bill that Annabelle just called him Billzer, but that's what Ellen calls him. And so he finally starts to believe that they really did switch bodies. So he tests Annabelle and comes to believe that they really did switch bodies. So Ellen in Annabelle's body explains what the Chinese man said, that they gotta get the talismans and switch back before sunset. So Bill's on board now and takes Ellen, who's really Annabelle, back to school in hopes that they can get everything together.
And switch back. Meanwhile, Ben, the brother, is sitting on the bench waiting to be picked up when his teacher offers to call his mom. After she leaves, two bullies come and start picking on him. Back at the school, Ellen runs into Rachel, the mean girl, and asks if she's seen Annabelle. She gives like a bitchy response, and then Ellen goes off on her and says, no matter how great or cool you think you are, sometimes it's not about you or your problems. It's always about teamwork. And she tells her just because she doesn't like Jackie, too bad. You have to learn how to get along with people. She says that she's popular and has plenty of friends. And then Ellen's like, because they really like you or because they're afraid of you? And then Rachel's kind of shocked at this revelation and like taking it in. And then Ellen remembers about Ben and hands Rachel the clothes to wear and then runs off.
Back with Ben, these two bullies, they stole his label maker and are throwing it back and forth. And like that's his like pride and joy. He loves to label everything, which kind of reminds me of myself as a kid. Annabelle in his mom's body shows up and pantses one of the kids and steals the other one's glasses. And then they take the front wheel off one of the bikes and she like hangs it on this post so they won't be able to get to it. And then Ben's all like, you're the coolest mom ever. And then they kind of have a bonding moment because he's like, Annabelle doesn't like me. And she's like, no, it's not that she doesn't like you. It's just she, you know, wants you to be like her. And then he's like, I just want to be me. She's like, okay, I understand. And then they head over to the swim meet. Meanwhile, back at school, the coach is like yelling at Annabelle and Jackie and basically saying that Annabelle like fucked the whole swim team because they now have to forfeit. She's like, I gave you one job. And Annabelle is like, you should have taken responsibility. Like, this is your fault. And like, how can you put pressure on these kids to like make these decisions? Coach is taken aback, but then all of a sudden Rachel and the other girls show up wearing the new uniforms and are like, we've come to a decision that we'll have two alternates and they'll switch places, and so like resolve things. Annabelle realizes she needs to get the talisman, so she gets Luke and Ben shows up with them, and they decide to hotwire somebody's car so that Annabelle can drive back to Village Kids to get the talisman.
So then we get another like driving rollerblading montage. Ellen goes home and gets her talisman necklace and takes $20 to call a cab. Annabelle then drives to Village Kids and finds the other talisman. Carrie and Herbie, her two co-workers, get in with her and go to the swim meet, leaving the tax man behind like, what am I supposed to do? Meanwhile, Luke, Bill, and Frida Debney are at the swim meet. Ellen and Annabelle both pull up at school at the same time with their talismans. Ellen says, okay, what do we do now? Annabelle says to think the same thought at the same time like they did that morning. But before they can, the coach grabs Annabelle and says the swim meet is about to start. Ellen heads towards the stands and talks to Frida Debney and puts her necklace back on. The team marches out in their village kids' clothes, and Frida Debney says it's a bit disturbing, but in a weird way, it works.
It's got some, like, plaid and...
It's, like, green and khaki, because, of course, because it's
khaki
wishes.
Cookie dreams.
Shelley Long. Beverly Hills reference.
Yeah, it's, like, green, but it's got patches of plaid. It is very 90s.
Because in the beginning, like, Ellen made a crack about Annabelle's clothes and how she wears, like, plaids and stripes
and they don't match.
Yeah.
So, guess who has to dive first at the diving competition? It's Annabelle, and she has to dive off the high platform. So, it's Ellen who was afraid to get like 2 feet off of her ladder and now has to climb up the 50-meter high dive. So she's like taking the steps up the ladder and like wants to turn back, but the coach is like, what you doing? You got to do this for the school. So she gets up to the top. She's like, okay, I can do this. Annabelle in Ellen's body is like, we can do this. We can do this. And so she goes to make the leap, and then she does like an immaculate dive because they were believing at the same time they could do it. And they switch bodies.
Yeah, she got like a perfect 10.
Yeah. The crowd cheers and everyone's happy.
Then Frida Debney says to Ellen that she's in on the clothes and that she's never worked with someone like her before. The principal says to Annabelle that she did good and that she only has 1 week of detention instead of for the next 3 years of her life after all the shenanigans she had pulled during the day. She also tells her to have her mother give her a call about the team uniforms. Jackie then comes up and thanks Annabelle for putting herself on the line for her. They hug and Jackie prepares to dive next. Bill says to Ellen, is it really you? And she gives him a kiss.
So we cut to the end of the swim meet, and of course Annabelle's team won, and Ellen and Annabelle hug. Ellen tells her, oh, your dive was great and you saved village kids. Ellen tries to talk to Annabelle about Bill, and it's like, he's a good guy, and then they talk about Luke, and it's like, yeah, he's a good kid, and so they patch things up, and it's like, yeah, I never realized how hard your life was, and they both agree and hug it out. Then Annabelle's like, how many times does Friday the 13th come around? And Ellen's like, I hope it's only every 100 years if we're lucky, and then they walk off, and that's the end.
So thoughts on the movie?
Basically, never eat Chinese food on Friday the 13th. Is what I've gathered from all the Freaky Friday movies I've seen.
I did see the original one when I was a kid, but I remember not really caring for it all that much. Like, I love the original, like, 60s Parent Trap, and I like the Lindsay Lohan one, too. But for some reason, I never got into 70s Freaky Friday.
The movie's kind of campy and fun. It's kind of cute at the same time.
I still think this is the best of all of them. Well, I haven't seen the 2018 one, the musical, but if I had to pick between the three, I still think this is the best one, at least in my opinion.
I don't really remember the original one. I did see the one with Lindsay Lohan, and yeah, I didn't think it was, like, super great. I like Shelley Long, like, when she's acting like a teenager, because I believe it, because she's got that whiny voice. But then I noticed, like, at the end, she kind of still had, like, the whiny voice when she was like, every 100 years, if we're lucky. Like, it was still sounded like Annabelle, which is kind of funny. But, yeah, it was a good watch. A little cheesy, a little campy, but good times.
I wanted to mention Rachel, who is played by Marla Sokolov, and she was like the quintessential 90s mean girl, like where Billy Zabka was like your quintessential 80s bully. Like, she was in a ton of stuff. She was in like Full House and a bunch of other movies and TV shows. And it's funny because the girl who played Jackie and her were both in the Babysitters Club movie. And then I realized, because the Babysitters Club movie was directed by the same person who did this, Melanie Mayron. But I thought that was an interesting coincidence. I love that movie too, by the way. Any other thoughts? Nope. Alright, well then we can move on to the Brain Basement. Alright, welcome to the Brain Basement, where today we're going to talk about celebrity crushes, superstitions, and other things. So yeah, as Snarky mentioned earlier, I did have a crush on Andrew Keegan, who played Luke in this. I was 12. It must have been from watching Camp Nowhere, which I think had come out a year before this. Or he was on this other show called Thunder Alley, I think, which was around the same time. Or I probably just saw him in a Bop magazine or Teen Beat. I was like, ooh. But I had a lot of celebrity crushes back in the day. I'm sure you did too, but you won't tell me any.
Yeah, I kind of kept mine to myself because I didn't want someone to make fun of me.
You make fun of me all the time.
I know, and that's why I don't tell you my shit, so I don't get made fun of.
Rude.
Other than, like, my Joey Fatone. I don't know who else I like.
My other ones were in the 90s.
Rob from Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
I liked Alex from Ghost Rider, but I don't know. You know what it is? It's like I thought people were cute, but I didn't get like super attached to them, I guess. I don't know.
I like Jason David Frank from the Power Rangers, the Green and White Ranger. I had a crush on him. Justin Timberlake, of course, which we talked about in our NSYNC episode.
Yeah, that's about it.
Jonathan Knight from New Kids, that was like in the 80s when I was younger.
But yeah, as far as like being superstitious, I mean, we would always not step on a crack to break our mother's back. But
I still knock on wood.
I knock on wood, but
on
other than that, I do that more as a like joke. Yeah, I guess that's the only really superstitious thing I still do. I just remember we had rabbit's feet when we were kids, and I guess I never really like realized that it was an actual rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
And like I think we bought them like at school at like a
Peter's
Christmas
gonna come for our ass.
like thing at school. And so I had one, and then like years later I was like cleaning my room and I found it and all the fur had come off and it was a rabbit foot. Like it creeped me the fuck out, like, because it's just like the bone of the rabbit foot with the little like gold keychain thing attached to it.
Yeah, I don't think I realized they were actual real rabbit's feet.
Yeah, when I was a kid. And so, like, that was, like, a growing up experience. And then you're like, holy shit, this is fucked up.
Yeah, for real.
Like, and I'm sure I had, like, more than one.
Yeah, because, like, fur would be, like, dyed different colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, finding that was not cool. As far as in fears and stuff, I mean, I don't think I have, like, too many irrational fears. My fear is of falling downstairs.
Yeah, I have a stair fear. Especially going down the stairs. Going up the stairs, I'm fine.
Same with me. But I have a fear of falling downstairs, and I don't feel like it's an irrational fear. I feel like it's very rational.
Because I feel like you have that forward momentum that's kind of pulling you down as you're walking down the stairs. I'm like always afraid I'm gonna like lose my balance or trip and like just crack my head open or something.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, once you start going, like, there's no saving you. Like,
unless you grab onto like the side or something.
And one time I had a very scary experience with an escalator when I was in Japan. My shoelace was undone, and this is when I was coming in, so I had like my luggage and everything, and my shoelace got caught in the escalator, and I just felt the pull, and like it was stuck, and like I literally had to like yank my leg back, and like it broke the whole like of the shoe. I mean, I could have cracked my head open there too.
Well, I don't like spiders. I don't like clowns. Yeah, it was traumatic for me. Tim Curry's funny in that movie, but I was like, it's a clown and a spider? What the fuck?
I'm okay with bugs as long as they're not on me. Then it's like a different story.
Yeah.
Or if there's like a spider in my room and I see it. Because like one time there was one on the ceiling and like it kept like dropping down and it was above my bed. And I'm like, I gotta kill this fucker or I'm never gonna be able to sleep.
Yeah. And then my other fear, and I think this has to do with the earthquake, which I kind of touched on in one of our Halloween episodes, is I don't like bridges. And which is funny because just this past Monday I had to go to a doctor's appointment across the bay and I had to go on the San Mateo Bridge, which like on this one point is very low to the water, but it's still creepy. And like I'm like driving by myself and I'm like I'm in the middle lane like the whole way. I'm like I don't care if like cars pass me by, like I don't give a shit. I'm staying in this middle lane. I think it's because again the earthquake, because the Bay Bridge broke pretty much, and the car fell on the upper deck, fell towards the lower deck, and yeah, I haven't liked bridges ever since then. I was pretty young, and that was traumatizing. All right, you ready to move on to the music spotlight?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you there. All right, welcome to the Music Spotlight, where today's topic is superstitious songs. And first up on the list is one of your favorites.
Mm-hmm. It's Amy Stewart with "You Better Knock, 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 oh woo, baby."
A disco classic. The original's really good too. But yeah, this is a fun song you can get your groove on too.
I'm not superstitious about it, but you can't take no chances.
That's why you gotta knock on wood. Number 2 is Janet Jackson with Black Cat, which is a really good song from Rhythm Nation.
We are part of a Rhythm Nation.
That's a good album. Anyways, because you don't want a black cat to cross your path because it's bad luck, especially on Friday the 13th. Number 3 is Duran Duran with I'm Looking for Cracks in the Pavement. And this is an obscure song from Seven and the Ragged Tiger, but I thought it was appropriate because you don't want to step on that crack so you don't break your mother's back. Because I'm looking for cracks in the pavement.
Then we got number 4 with an oldie but goodie, Elvis Presley, Be My Good Luck Charm. Your sweet divine.
Yeah, this is a good song. You know, Elvis is the king. He had a bunch of good songs. I didn't remember this song, and then I heard it like one day, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this one.
Yeah, I remember this song. Then we got number 5 with, of course, Stevie Wonder. Very superstitious. Writings on the wall.
Funky funk classic.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Then our honorable mention, since, you know, it's Friday the 13th, I had to go with the Friday the 13th Part 3 theme, which is super funky, and it's a good one. You can break dance to it. It's got that kind of vibe. You can pop and lock or whatever. It's scary and cool to dance to, which is a good combination. And that's it for our Music Spotlight. If you want to check out our songs in full, you can check them out on our website.
Because we like the funk.
We gotta have that funk.
Ow. Well, thanks for joining us for this Freaky Friday. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for our very special Thanksgiving episode. So please join us then. And in the meantime, stay safe and have a good one.
All right, if you want to drop us a line, you can email us at spunkyandsnarkyshow@gmail.com. You can go to our website, which is spunkyandsnarkyshow.wordpress.com. You can leave us a voicemail on our Anchor page, which is anchor.fm/spunkyandsnarkyshow. You can like us and or leave us a message on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's pretty much it. Anyways, thanks for listening and have a good one.
Peace out.
Bye.